Hi everyone, welcome or welcome back. I'm Kat and today is a rainy November day, so I thought what better time than to share with you my planners or how it's all coming together for 2026 by showing you a little part of the journal ecosystem that I'll be using in 2026. But I'm getting ahead of myself because I know a few of you will be new here, and a lot of what I share here revolves around my love for fountain pens. So just keep in mind that there's also a mix. I do writing, journaling, and share the tools that make these practices feel enjoyable. And since we're well into planner season, I've been setting up the journals that will guide me through 2026, which of course these days people call a journal ecosystem when you have a multi-journal setup. And that makes me smile because I'm a real fan of these new terms and the formalizing of these practices. In my 20s, it was something I used without having a name for it, having multiple journals. It's the same with personal curriculum. As a lifelong learner, I just used to learn stuff and note it down in different notebooks and everything, but I never thought to call it a personal curriculum. And I like all of this that's, developing. Now that I'm in my 40s, I'm learning far less intuitively. There are so many distractions that just didn't exist when I was working full-time and earning my degree by completing my coursework on the train home or attending in-person tutorials on a Saturday. I'm glad that I didn't have reels and various shorts to vie for my attention. They simply didn't exist in the way that they do now. So while a personal curriculum may have sounded unnecessarily formal to me in the 2000s, it definitely sounds like a useful tool for 2026 and inspired me to pull together this little pack here. So I've pulled together a language learning setup for Korean and Chinese, something personal, simple, and welcoming. I want to learn in bite sizes without the pressure of a huge journal or several huge journals or hours of my day. A few focused notes or tasks per day will be enough for me. By keeping everything compact and approachable, I'm hoping to build consistency and enjoyment one tiny step at a time. So I've gathered a few tools that will form this little language learning center, all contained in a single Muji organizer, which I've left the tags on so I could remind myself about what it is. So the planner cover is black for A5 planners, and it also comes with a removable pen case, and it cost £14.95. So as I open that up, I'll turn it around. There we go. You see the detachable pen case over here. Got little clips. And then you can just clip it right back, and you can always just leave it clipped and flip it to the side like that. And I find that really handy. The two planners are also Muji planners. 2026 monthly and weekly diaries. And I usually go for a daily, but for my needs, like I say, I want to go bite size, so weekly sounded ideal. I've got the white grey B6 for Korean and a grey A5 for Chinese. You can see they've got different orientations. So this here is a horizontal, that's vertical. To supplement these planners we'll be learning, because it is very compact, and I know I'll need to do extra notes, but I don't want to do too many. I don't want to overwhelm myself. So within this pouch, which it's a pen case, but I'm not using it just for pens. What I've done instead for my pens, or pen at the moment, because I've only got one dedicated one at the moment, I'll think of a second one. This is the Muji aluminium one, and I found my old pen loops and I thought, I wonder if I pulled that off this archive journal, will it still stick? Do I have to add more glue? You won't believe it, I didn't have to add more glue, and look how well it has stuck onto here. So these planners from Muji, the horizontal one actually came with this little cover on it. It's nicely protected, and I just put the pen loop onto there, similar to the vertical one again, but I've put the loop on the front. Okay, it's not holding the stickers in the best way, but yeah, I'll take those out. Pens, this is the Muji aluminium and it is an extra fine nib. And I just feel like everything's been coming together really well with these Muji products. But like I said, I have supplemented the actual core planners that I'll be using. And I've gone for these. Got another Muji notebook. It's one of the ones that says high quality paper. And they are fantastic for ink swatching as well as just, regular fountain pen use. And I had already started this, so I've just put a clip there to keep all my old notes separate because it's got nothing to do with language learning, but I just didn't want to buy another notebook when I know that I can easily make use of this. And within it, I'd forgotten that I've put this mechanical pencil because I just thought it fits the vibe and, maybe I should go pencil as well because I just notoriously don't use this at all. And I want to make use of what I own. If I end up not using it, I'll probably gift it on. It's an Oren's Pentel 0.5 and I'll pop that there. I've just put a little note on there, fall back in love with learning, and then Korean, Chinese, and German. So this is a sort of overflow notebook for these 3 languages. And you'll notice that German doesn't have its own planner in the way that Korean and Chinese do. And that's because I'm already fluent in German. I just don't want to lose it. And I can also improve in my comprehension of written German because I haven't ever had to write it. So my spoken German is fluent, but I just haven't had to ever write to anyone, and that has definitely gotten rusty. That's going to be for overflow notes, and then we've got 3 more dedicated little notebooks there, pocket notebooks, and I can highly recommend all 3 of these. These 2 are from the same brand. They're Clairefontaine, and they are Life Unplugged. For 2 of these notebooks, it costs about £4. They are just so handy. I'm not usually a huge fan of pocket notebooks, especially more recently when I have been working from home and I've had, the privilege of not having to lug things about with me, which is very different from how life used to be. I used to be commuting all the time and carrying heavy backpacks. And from working from home, I got used to using bigger notebooks. But these really were good for me. So I found myself saying recently that I'm not really a fan of pocketbooks. And it got me thinking, why? They really were so useful when I needed them. So I've decided to actually go back to this and to use them so that I don't experience overwhelm from using too much. So I think this will help me. The Korean one supplements, of course, the Korean planner, and then the Chinese one supplements the Chinese, and this is a different brand. It is a Paper Republic, and I've had this for years. So I sectioned off half of the book over here, and yeah, we'll put that aside and carry on looking at this entire, what have I got in here, the pouch. So we've got a little magnetic paper or bookmark, and I had bought 3 washi rolls from Muji and decided just to use some of this plastic that had my dot stickers on it. When I had finished using the dot stickers, I just kept the plastic, and that is keeping some washi tape on there for me because I very rarely use washi, but if I need it, it will be there, and it will be to hand in here. So pop those supplementary notebooks back. These are all for extra learning to supplement the 2 main Muji planners. So let's take a closer look at this B5 half-size monthly, weekly planner and how I'll be using it for learning Korean in 2026. It's compact and I like the horizontal layout. As you open it up, you have the 2026 calendar and then the future calendar as well on the first page, so 26 and 27. And then you have 12 columns on this open view so you can see a year at a glance. And I'll highlight missed days, days that I haven't done any Korean learning with a highlighter. I'll just, pop maybe a gray line through that particular day, and that will give me an idea of how my progress is going in terms of building consistency of learning every day. And it's going to be guilt-free. There are certain days that you just can't do something. So for example, if I wanted to, I could immediately put a gray line through New Year's over there. Flip over, and then you've got the monthlies, and it starts in December. It means I can start next month, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to start my language learning in December, and that is because I don't want everything that I am going to be learning in 2026 to start at the same time. I also didn't like the idea of starting everything, for example, doing a personal curriculum, starting everything in September. I have very limited time, and I also have some things vying for my attention. So I want to start at different times and set up the consistency from December for the Korean and the Chinese learning. And in here, what I'm going to do is actually log the media that I am using to support my learning. And it will also help me decide if I am using the media in the best way. If I can put down that I've watched YouTube, K-drama, C-drama, podcasts, and what the effectiveness is. I'll have little notes along there as well I can annotate. And then we just flip through all of these monthlies until we get to the weekly. Okay, so here we have the first week of December, and December starts on a Monday, the 1st, and this planner goes Monday through to Sunday as the last day. And I like that we have got the whole week to view with this horizontal layout. We've also got a long vertical column per day, and each of those verticals is split with the central line here, which would usually be an AM and a PM, but I'm using it for learning a language, so I'll be putting words at the top and then phrases in terms of what you could say to include the words that you've learned. And I'm going to keep it very, very basic, and we'll definitely come back to that. So I am now going to just continue with the layout to show you what it actually looks like, because we did the monthlies and we've been looking at the weeklies, and finally at the back you have these grid pages. And what I'll do here is use this for reference notes. So reference and review, logging the alphabet, phonetics, grammar ladders, and useful lists. And the thing that I've added in that wasn't there, and I'm not going to say that they're the best quality, but I, again, had these to hand, and they're just monthly index tabs. And I didn't have one that says reference notes or ideas. So all I've done is put a little bit of washi on there to create another tab without writing on it to give me an indication of where the grid paper starts for my reference notes. So that is the design of the book, with just, tiny little embellishments of putting the tabs and the pen loop in. Overall, without adding anything to it, it's already a really clever design. I like that the cover is light but sturdy, and I wouldn't be worried about wrecking the planner because this cover is really durable. So I also like the colors, the grey and the light or white grey color of this one. They're both that cool, calm, neutral vibe that Muji gives. I'm all about the design here and how it doesn't pull my attention. It doesn't vie for my attention. It sort of recedes into the background so I can focus on actually doing the learning. Now I picked a weekly dated planner rather than a notebook so that I have a non-intimidating mini dashboard, but also one that's dated so that I can have a clear focus per day. So I do want to set up this ritual, a daily ritual of learning, sort of small spaces, small goals, small wins, everything tiny, especially as I'm a total beginner. And now we can actually have a look at that weekly spread. That is what I'll be really filling in and learning on. And as you can see, I've just put in only notes on that first week, because what I'll do is I'll update it on a weekly basis. But the first week, I'll be focusing on body parts and useful phrases involving body parts, which sounds macabre, but you know what I mean. And also, in terms of the body, I'll be looking probably the following week at accessories and clothing, so things that we wear on our body. And what gave me that idea is the second-hand Korean flashcards that I picked up from eBay. It says the complete language learning kit, and the only thing that's missing from this kit is this ring that combines all of the flashcards together. It has the free audio disc inside, and I'll have to find a way to play it because I don't have a CD player any longer. But I think it would be useful for me to actually listen as well, because how else am I going to be able to get the phonetics right? But anyway, this here is going to sit alongside the planner. It says 200 flashcards with a handy organizing ring, which I don't have, audio recordings, and a 32-page study booklet. Oh, do I have a study booklet? Yes, I do. I didn't even remember I had the study booklet. So this is going to guide me. And the first 4 flashcards is what I'll be focusing on in week 1, because they are about the body. And you can see the English and the Hangul on the other side, so the Korean alphabet. I'll be learning head, shoulder, belly, back, that sort of thing. I've put head and face, I've put eye, ear, nose, neck, arms, hands, fingers, legs, feet. Then what we're going to do is have a full review of the Monday through Friday body parts on the Saturday, and do some listening comprehension, listening and speaking, and then really hone in on the speaking and personal sentences on the Sunday. So this is a very loose plan, but it is doing something every day, and that's the key thing for me. But yeah, I was really thrilled to find a set that was almost complete. But obviously, this isn't something that you need if you're learning Korean. I've seen loads of people say they've been using free online resources. So really honing in on this for the particular headers that we've got, where they've got the date and the day, I'm putting in the particular daily focus topic. We know that I'm looking overall at body parts and useful phrases, so I'll be using this section of the planner as a place to actually put the main overview, and then it splits into the daily focus in these headers, which is the date and the day, and then into the words and the phrases areas. So at the top, I'll have the words for head and face, which at the moment I can't even say. And I'll practice writing it in Hangul and pronouncing it. And then I will put together a phrase like, let's say, my head hurts, or I have something on my face. I have no idea. Anyway, I will figure that out as I go along. And it's just that simple idea of having the keywords and trying to fit them into a phrase and learning a useful phrase. For me, the format keeps each day tiny but structured. And the aim is that I have this daily micro task recipe of learning 2 new words and 2 new phrases per day. Or if I feel quite confident about particular words and phrases, maybe 2 to 4 new words and 2 to 4 new phrases. And then perhaps also tie in 1 real life exposure. So when I mentioned that I have got the monthlies here that I'll be using to mention social media, I could say on the December 1st, I watched a K-drama, named the K-drama in there, and that I recognized particular words that I've noted, and I can, keep track of that there. So 1 real life exposure, because I don't live in Korea, I don't live in China, so I won't really get that sort of exposure. I will say that I lived a year in Germany, and that really helped me with my language learning. I was so proud when I had a dream. After 6 months of living there, I dreamt in German, and I knew when I woke up that I had dreamt entirely in German, and I still keep that memory with me. But anyway, I will not get to that stage in 1 year with Korean and Chinese. I do think after 3 months is a good time for me to reassess. So after 3 or 4 months in the first instance, because then I'll go to 3 months because I'm starting a month early. So I'll review in March, and that will be 4 months for me, and then I'll keep reviewing every 3 months. And after the first 4 months, I may add in bigger lessons other than this particular one, maybe a podcast, maybe YouTube, and other apps like Duolingo. But it all depends on how well I feel this is going. And I like that flexibility of being able to try something and then reviewing it. I don't want to fill this entire planner with a year long of plans before the year starts, because you can never anticipate what is going to hold you back and what is actually really motivating and working for you until you're doing it. So the other thing is, with December being a focus on the body, I am going to try and use media that I'll be logging here, media that fits the focus. So with this being the body, and I might just decide that for Korean, I will watch Physical 100, like all the seasons of it, because that is definitely going to be referencing people talking about torsos and bellies and all of that. I could watch a K-drama that centers around fashion, for example, or even watch particular YouTube clips by Korean hairdressers, Korean makeup artists, all of that. There's really just no limit to which direction I can go. And it doesn't feel overwhelming. It just sort of feels like, oh, that's really nice that I have got the opportunity to focus on a particular topic, like the body, and then go in any direction I feel like it on a given week to supplement that learning. Also, at the end of the month, you know how I did these little notes on the weekly on the side, which gives me the overarching for the dailies. Instead of having something like that for the monthly, because that's just going to be repetitive, over here, my aim is going to be that at the end of December, I will try and do a mini essay, like a mini personal essay that uses as many of the new phrases as possible in a logical way to have something to reference and go, that's what I really learned in December. We'll see how that goes. I'll feed back. So as you can tell, the way that I am going to put my learning together is very mixed media, mixed everything. If you want a more structured way of using the planner than the monthly overview, rather than having the different media that you've been consuming, you could have things like vocabulary, you could put grammar, you could score your listening or score your reading and your speaking, all of that. For me, if I flip back through this and see a week full of just Netflix, but no flashcards and other stuff for deeper learning, that tells me that I may be over-relying on K-drama subtitles rather than actively learning. And if I do find that I am binge-watching a K-drama or a C-drama, but not really absorbing stuff, then I will go on to something else. But that is also the reason that I've decided that whatever I do actually watch in a particular week has the same topic that I'm focusing on, so that it will help me pick up particular words that I have just learned. Now, the back grid pages. This is where the Hangul reference and pronunciation guide will go. I'll have a grammar ladder. I will also have a page. I think these two. I will put my wins on there, what I felt was really amazing. So if I have something that I felt fantastic about, I will log it. Like, I understood a joke in a K-drama, or I wrote Korean sentences 7 days in a row without getting tripped up. And then, of course, I can also have a list here of phrases and words that trip me up. So that is the one for the Korean. Same concept for the Chinese planner, so I won't go through this in as much detail. Purely going to look at the different layout. I've got more space here because it is a larger A5 size. It's a vertical, and overall it has the same simple design, just a different weekly layout. So you've got your present and future calendar, although supplemented this time with a past calendar as well, because you've got the space for it. And then here, this is very similar. You've got the year to view in one glance because you've got the 12 columns, 6 and 6. And I'll use it in the same way as the Korean, where if there's a particular day that I have not done any Chinese practice, I will put a little highlighter through it. I'll use the monthlies in the same way, and this time we've got the notes section on this side. And again, this will be like me tracking media and how the media is helping me or distracting me from learning. But it's really the weeklies, as I mentioned. Why am I struggling to look when I told you how I had put in these indexes? All right, there we go. This is where week 1 is going to start. Why was I flipping through the other one when all I had to do was turn the January tab? Tell me that. Anyway, this is week 1. And so instead of having the layout that we had before with the verticals, just very quickly give you the side by side. This is the layout for the Korean in the smaller journal, verticals, week to view. This has got the full week to view, but all on one side, and then you've got this grid here. Potentially what I'm going to do is actually just extend that so that each day has got this much. And then I can do words and phrases that way. So you know how we had the split of words and phrases per day? I can do words on the left and then the phrases on the right. So that is my thinking at the moment. If that doesn't work out in week 1, then the opportunity is there for me to use a different format in week 2, where I could, have this as a free page for doing the personal essay, pulling together words and phrases that I've learned. And I could split that into 2 and use words and phrases there. You can also see that this has got dots in each of the row lines, and that means you can split each day into 3. That gives you a sort of ruler guide along there. I'm not going to be doing that, but you could do, depending on how you want to use a weekly journal like this, because I'm going to assume that not everyone wants to use a weekly journal for learning a language, but you might just be curious about what the layout looks like. Similar, you've got a grid paper at the back here, but I haven't put a bit of washi tape in the back yet. But I will do, because I actually find that really helpful in terms of finding where the index pages or the grid paper starts. And I'll do the same thing here, having a reference for alphabet, phonetics, and, useful phrases to refer back to. Really, the grid papers are all about high value reference. They're not the daily notes. If I need to do daily notes, that will be in the supplementary notebooks. And what I'll do is I'll come back every month to give you an update of how that's actually working in practice and the adjustments that I make. And then at the end of the year, I'll have a much better idea of what my continued learning is going to need for me to better carry on learning both languages. It's sort of trial and error. Now, going back to these notebooks, paper quality is fantastic for all of them. So high quality Muji paper, I highly recommend. Or if you decide you want a smaller notebook and you love Clairefontaine, then these Life Unplugged are really good and very inexpensive at £4 for the 2. And of course, this is more expensive, the Paper Republic, but like I said, I had this left over from 2019, so I've got half a notebook. And the point of these is that the type of paper I've got here are all fountain pen friendly, just like the planners, and I can use that with the Muji aluminium fountain pen. It's all compatible. I don't have to worry about any bleed through, any stuff that's going to be distracting me from the actual learning. And it just makes the writing look nice and crisp as well. These things are always on. You're not going to run out of battery. You've just got them to hand. That's the beauty of analog. The other thing I can do in here is pull together some tiny mind maps about ideas on what I want to change about how I'm currently using the system. And then, of course, the fact that all of these fit so well into this organizer makes me happy. You can add your extra little bits in there. You could even fit a small pair of scissors in there, and that would work perfectly. So that is the flip out pen case. You can keep pens in there if you prefer. And This is how I'm putting in the book. This is the Korean planner. Just do that. Of course, you could put the entire book in like that and stick the fountain pen in this way. It's all versatile. You can do it however you like. And with this being an A5, you can pop that into there. And that sits perfectly now. Okay, so that is my grab and go study kit. This particular cover turns multiple notebooks and pens into a tiny bundle for language learning. If I'm heading out, I can grab it, and I know I have everything in there for a tiny study session wherever the day takes me, on a train, in a cafe, or during a long wait somewhere. As long as I can get a seat, I can open that up onto my lap and do a little session without needing anything else. Of course, I could also use some backup ink cartridges. So if you want to be super organized, get some international standard cartridges for your fountain pen, or use another type of pen that's going to last forever. Or include other pens, you know, your ballpoints, your fine liners, your gel rollers, whatever. Neat, portable, everything's protected, and everything's always ready. It is not flashy. It is an extremely humble set, and yet it is exactly, I think, what I need. I also feel like the way that I put this together is not just flexible, but sort of self-compassionate. I know this sounds a little bit, I don't know. But anyway, I don't want to burn out doing something a little bit extra in terms of learning something new. Right now, sitting here with this little pack, I feel quietly optimistic that the setup is so simple that I'm not going to overthink it. And by the end of 2026, my hope is that the pages will be full of evidence that I showed up for Korean syllables, Chinese characters, phrases I once had to look up and now just know. Lists of dramas and podcasts, half-won battles with grammar, and plenty of small honest notes about how it felt along the way. Let me know what your setup looks like, which notebook you're using, which planner, what helped with making your decisions. Obviously, the important thing is that your system feels like it's on your side, something that nudges you gently, that doesn't intimidate you, that inspires you, makes you feel passionate about things, and yeah, all that good stuff. For me, it looks like this. Thank you for spending this time with me walking through this plan for my Language Learning Center for 2026. Here's to steady progress, cozy study sessions, and the simple pleasure of putting pen to paper. Thanks so much for joining me, and take care. Bye.